Matthew here, your BRS beginner guru, and today I'm going to show you how to set up both the standard and deluxe bulk reef supply meter reactors for both carbon and GFO. Let's get to it. Besides the color, there are a few key differences between the standard and deluxe reactors. First up, we have the build quality. The deluxe is built with thicker, sturdier plastic and features a molded plastic top. The deluxe has an air purge valve that makes it easy to remove trapped air before unscrewing the canister to swap out the media. And finally, the deluxe has a slightly slimmer profile, and the push connect fittings are built right into the lid, reducing possible leak points. Functionally though, both reactors operate the same, so whichever one you end up getting, the following instructions apply. Well then, what comes in the box? Both reactor kits include the reactor lid, canister, and refillable media cartridge, 2 sponges, a canister wrench, a pump, push connect fittings, 1/2-inch flexible tubing, and a ball valve to control the flow. Since both reactor kits are set up the same way, rather than make this video twice, I'm just going to use the deluxe kit for this video. Step 1 is to choose the installation location. You can install the reactor in one of 2 ways: submerged in a sump, or dry mounted with only the input and output tubing in the water. Whichever you choose, the only real difference is how long you'll need to cut the flexible tubing. For today's video, we're going to show you how to set up the reactor in a sump, well, actually this small aquarium, but you get the idea. Step 2, set up the pump. Take the threaded push connect fitting and screw it into the pump output. Tighten snugly by hand for a watertight seal. Then attach the 4 rubber feet to the base of the pump. They can be a little tricky, but if you apply steady pressure while wiggling them side to side, they will eventually click into place. Step number 3, prepare the reactor. Before hooking anything up, make sure the lid is firmly screwed onto the canister body. This way, we are certain to cut the flexible tubing to the proper length. Step number 4, connect the output tubing. Straighten out a piece of flexible tubing and use a little opposite pressure like this if it's kinked. On the reactor lid, you'll find the direction of flow clearly marked by this arrow. Push the tubing firmly into the output fitting until it seats about 1 inch. Give it a couple tugs to make sure it's tight. Cut the tubing to length so that the outlet ends below the water line in your sump. This avoids noisy splashing. Be sure to use either an RO tube cutter or razor blade for the cleanest cut. Avoid scissors here as they often lead to a rough and uneven cut, which can lead to future leaks. Something we obviously want to avoid, especially if we're mounting the canister in a dry location. Step number 5, connect the input tubing and ball valve. Take another piece of tubing and push it firmly into the pump output, about 1 inch. Place the pump next to the reactor, measure the length you'll need, and cut the tubing cleanly using an RO cutter or razor blade. Push the open end into the reactor's input fitting, making sure it's fully seated. Give it a couple tugs to make sure it's secure. Now let's add the ball valve. The ball valve is technically optional if you're only going to be running carbon in this reactor, but if you intend to use GFO, it's essential. I recommend placing the ball valve about halfway in between the pump and the reactor body. To install it, start by making a clean cut to the flexible tubing about halfway between the pump and reactor. Insert one end of the tubing into the ball valve, then insert the other end into the opposite side. Give them both a tug to make sure they're firmly seated. If you end up with too much tubing, which of course you're going to, remove one side and cut off about an inch and then reinstall the tube. To remove tubing from any push connect fitting, hold the collar against the fitting while pulling the tubing out. By this point, all of your gear is set up and ready for media, so let's start by showing you how to set up the meter reactor for activated carbon. The first thing you'll need to do is unscrew the canister. If it's too tight, use the included canister wrench to loosen it. Inside, you'll find the refillable cartridge. Remove the cartridge from the reactor body, then remove the top and strainer from the cartridge. Take out both sponges. Here's the trick with activated carbon: we don't want it to tumble. Carbon is soft and will quickly grind down to a very fine black powder, and if that happens, it will spread all over your tank. To prevent this, we are going to securely pack the activated carbon between two sponges. Depending on which type of carbon you choose, whether that be bituminous or ROX 0.8, you'll need to measure out the correct amount of carbon. You can do that by following instructions on the jar itself or by checking out the BRS calculator. We'll put a link in the description below. Push one sponge partway down into the refillable cartridge. Pour in your measured carbon. Place the second sponge firmly on top, sandwiching the carbon in place. Reattach the strainer and top of the cartridge and then slide it back into the canister. Now screw the canister lid on securely and use the canister wrench to give it an extra turn to make sure it's snug. Before installing it into your sump, you need to rinse the activated carbon. You could do this ahead of time, but I find it easiest and more thorough if you use the pump. Here's how to do it. Place the pump into a container of clean water. Run the output line into a separate container to catch the dirty water. Plug in the pump and let it run until the water coming out looks clear. Once the water runs clear, you're ready to install it in your sump. Move the pump into your sump. Place the output line back into the sump, plug in the pump, and your reactor is up and running. Since you're using activated carbon here, the more flow, the better. So if you installed the ball valve, be sure it's turned to the inline, fully open position as shown here. Moving on to granular ferric oxide, or GFO for short. Setting it up is easy, maybe even a little easier than the activated carbon, and here's how to do it. Measure out your desired amount of GFO. We'll put a link to the BRS calculator in the description below, or you can just follow the instructions on the package. Pour the GFO directly into the bottom of the refillable cartridge. We're not going to use any sponges here because we want that GFO to gently tumble. Reattach the top and strainer, place the cartridge into the canister, and use the wrench to securely fasten the canister to the lid. GFO is super dusty, so we definitely want to rinse it well before putting it in our sump. To do this, turn the ball valve to the perpendicular off position as shown here. Place the pump into a container of clean water. Place the output line into a separate container to catch the dirty rinse water. Plug in the pump. Slowly open the ball valve until water begins flowing and the GFO just starts to gently tumble. Keep rinsing it until the output water runs clear, then unplug the pump. Now take the reactor and pump and place it into your sump, plug in the pump again, readjust the ball valve until the GFO bed is just slightly tumbling at the top. This is too much flow, this is too little flow, and this is just right. This gentle motion keeps the GFO from clumping together without grinding it into a dust. One quick warning here, since we don't have any sponges in place, if you have the flow cranked up too high, all that GFO is going to escape out the top and end up in your tank, which we absolutely don't want. Links to both reactors and reactor kits are in the description below. Click here for more great BRS how-to videos, and until next time, be well and happy reefing, everybody.